Yo, welcome back to another video. This will be my third video that I have posted today, and that is going over the units that we have remaining from the update outside of the battle pass units. So we'll be checking out the 4 banner units, and we'll also be checking out Griffith at the end of this video. Griffith does not actually work in sandbox. This is because of his egg needing to sacrifice units. It's so it doesn't get abused that way, I'm pretty sure. So it's not a bug. So it will be a scuffed showcase showing Griffith, but these other ones, hopefully it is not too bad. So the first unit that we will be checking out is the Smith. All right, so starting off with the Smith is 500 to place down. He is a 1 placement unit and he is a fire type unit. This unit is a pure support. He has no attacks. So let's go straight into looking at his upgrades. He has 3,000 and a 10,000 upgrade, meaning that he has a 13.5 thousand total cost, and that is essentially all he does when it comes to his upgrades. Looking at his passive, his first passive is a Salvager. For every takedown that occurs, this unit gains 1 ore stack. This unit has access to different shops depending on upgrade. This unit can then craft and apply a weapon to any ally, overriding any weapon that already is on that ally. His second passive is Master Craftsman. For every 3 silver weapons crafted, this unit can craft 1 masterwork item for free. He has 3 upgrades and he has a Forge ability on placement. If we go ahead and check out the Forge ability right now, he accesses iron weapons. This is Iron Sword, Iron Spear, and Iron Dagger. Now he can craft as many weapons as possible depending on how many units there are. So each unit can hold only 1 type of weapon. So I have a sword now just placed on Do for 10% damage. If I then go to an Iron Spear, it would remove the sword and only use a spear. So as you can see, 1 weapon per unit. Looking at the increases, Iron Sword does 10% damage, Iron Spear is 10% range, and Iron Dagger is 3% SPA for 5 ores. Moving on to the next upgrade, his Forge gets increased to bronze weapons. This is 20% damage, 15% range, and 5% SPA for 20 ores this time around. And lastly, he unlocks Masterworks at his final upgrade, and his Forge is now silver weapons. This is 25% damage, 20% range, and 10% SPA. If we go ahead and look at his second passive again, for every 3 silver weapons crafted, so this is at the 3rd upgrade, he can craft 1 masterwork item for free. So if I go ahead and craft the sword, and we now need to wait for more ores because it does cost 80 to craft the next weapon. Go ahead and place that, and then we'll get 1 more weapon. There we go, we'll craft the sword this time. Now if we go ahead and craft the masterwork, we can read it right here. Only 1 of each masterwork can exist at a time. So there are 5 different masterworks, and each of them can be unique. So you can't have 5 different dragon slayers on your units. You can only have 1 that exists at a time per unit. There are 5 masterworks to go over. We have Dragon Slayer. This increases damage by 40% and increases damage dealt by dots by 20%. We have Salamander Dagger. This increases range by 20% and increases damage dealt to burning enemies by 20%. We have Dragon's Great Shield, make allies immune to status effects. We have Berserker Armor, makes allies immune to debuffs, and we have Sword of Actuation, reduces SPA by 10% and increases damage by 20%. So that is the 5 different masterworks we have. If I go ahead and craft a Dragon Slayer onto my Boo, as you can see, now he has the 40% damage increase. If I go ahead and add in a new unit real quick and then try to attempt to craft a Dragon Slayer again, as you can see, there is already a Dragon Slayer active. But then if we go ahead and craft the Salamander Dagger, he will get the Salamander Dagger this time around. So as you can see, each masterwork is unique. You can only have 1 to exist at a time, but you can craft multiple masterwork weapons. Overall, this unit is a very strong unit, super powerful support unit, and I would highly recommend getting him for any team. The next unit that we will be checking out is the Witch. She is 1,000 to place down. She is a 4 placement unit and she is nature typing. Now the Witch is actually a support unit, so we will not be checking out her DPSs, but we'll be checking out the unit itself. So she is a small range on placement and has a very thin cone. Going over her costs, her second attack is 28.9 thousand, her third attack is 47.2 thousand, and her final attack is 71.2 thousand, meaning that her total cost is 72.2 thousand. To max upgrade all 4 witches, it costs 288.8 thousand yen, but most of the time you will not even be using more than 1 or 2 of these units, I feel. So going over what this unit actually does, we go ahead and go to her first attack. She goes from a small cone to a full AoE, and then as as you can see, her next attack is a full AoE and her third attack is a full AoE. Now, if you had noticed while I was basically showing her costs, you may have noticed that she does apply Nullify, which we'll get into right now looking at her passive. So her first passive is Witch of the Elements. This unit is always treated as a positive element in any game mode that is buffing elements. Can only receive one buff per stage via this passive. This is essentially getting buffed by portals and also getting buffed by world lines. I don't think there are any other game modes outside of those two that give elemental buffs, so it is pretty good there, but she doesn't do a crazy amount of damage. As you can see, 26k at max upgrade Traitless, so she's not the craziest when it comes to having good damage. Her second passive is Astral Assistance. Attacks inflict Nullify for 10 seconds on hit, so this is a good replacement for Lucy if you do not have a Lucy. If we go ahead and see her upgrade to her first AoE, it costs 29.9 thousand if you include her cost, and then if we go ahead and check out Lucy real quick, to max out a Lucy it costs 39.2 thousand plus her cost of 1,100, so it is 40.3 thousand to max upgrade Lucy. So it is a lot cheaper to get a witch upgraded to this full AoE than it is to use Lucy. The other thing to note is that if you don't have a ZSPA on the witch, you could probably get this to be slower than 10 SPA, which would be perfect because this means that every single time she attacks, she'll be able to apply Nullify. Her second part of this passive is if an ally is stunned, boost their damage by 50% for the duration of the stun. This is a very odd passive, but it does make sense when you are pairing this with Guts especially. So that is this unit. This unit is pretty decent and a good replacement for Lucy for those who don't have Lucy at all. I feel like it was kind of needed, but yeah, pretty decent unit, very cheap, pretty much a support. Wouldn't really use her as anything else. All right, the next unit that we will be checking out is the King. The King is 1600 to place down. He is a 3 placement unit and he is curse typing. Going over his attacks, his second attack is 11,000, his third attack is 26.9 thousand, and his final attack is 77.1 thousand. This gives him a total cost of 78.7 thousand. Upgrading all three is 236.1 thousand to max upgrade him. If we go ahead and go through his attacks, first he is a small AoE. His second attack is a half cone, which is a very nice AoE type. Going on to his third attack is a medium to smallish AoE, and then his final attack is Dimension Shatter, and this is a full AoE. He has 84.4k damage at max every 7.2 seconds with Traitless Z plus stats. Going over his passives, his first passive is Demonic Body. Debuffs instead buff this unit by the same amount, and debuffs applied to this unit cannot be cleansed. This also means that they will never go away. They will stay there permanently, which is very nice. This unit is also immune to being branded, which branded is a status ailment that gets applied to units from Griffith. So he is a very good unit to pair alongside Griffith because of that, for a specific reason that I'll get into when we get to look at Griffith. The second passive is Fated Savior. If a unit on the map is inflicted with a status effect or debuff, this unit will teleport to their location, cleansing them for the status effect or debuff after a 3-second delay with a local 15-second cooldown. It is a pretty decent cleanse, but it is not like the most reliable. A 15-second cooldown per cleanse is not too much. It is mainly there as like a way for this unit to be able to teleport around the map if allies do end up getting affected by debuffs or status ailments, so it is pretty nice. Going over his DPS right now, he is at 11.7 thousand on a single placement. If we were to have all three max upgraded, this goes up to 35.2 thousand damage, which is not the greatest, but do keep in mind that his main passive is his first one, so we want to play around debuffs. He will be a very good unit when it comes to using him on Land of the Gods or on Marshall Islands, because there is energy drain, which will debuff an ally up to 70%. So if we go ahead and get ourselves energy drained, he'll actually increase his own damage by 70%, meaning that now he is up to 143.6 thousand damage. So we'll calculate his DPS from this as well, just because I feel like the most times where you're going to use this unit, it would be on a map like that, or he would be good for tournaments as well. So with energy drain applied to him, he has 143.6 thousand damage, meaning that his DPS on a single placement is 19.9 thousand damage. With 3 placements, it goes up to 59.8 thousand DPS, which is very nice indeed. Overall, he is also a pretty cheap unit, so he is not too bad of a unit overall. All right, looking at his Monarch damage, it is at 337.9 thousand damage. This makes his DPS at 52.2 thousand damage, which is pretty decent, but it can get better if, let's say, we were to face more energy drained units. Now that we have have got energy drain applied to him. He's at 574.5 thousand damage every 6.5 seconds, giving him a total DPS of 88.8 thousand damage, which is pretty good. Overall, I feel like this unit is pretty solid. He's not the craziest, but he is also pretty good, especially for tournaments. He will definitely be a tournament unit because any sort of debuffs that get applied to him will become permanent. There are things like Kisame. Kisame is a boss that will give a 50% SPA debuff, but because of how it works with the king, it should turn into a 50% buff to him. So we'll let Kisame attack him and I'll just show what I mean. As you can see, now he is at 3.2 second SPA every 500,000 damage, which is very good. It brings his DPS up to 177.7 thousand, which is very good. Overall, this unit is pretty decent. Not the craziest, but pretty alright. Alright, so the next unit that we will be checking out is the Struggler or Guts. He is 1200 to place down, he is 3 placement, and he is a unbound unit. So going over his attacks, he is a thick line on placement, very small range as well. Looking at his attacks, 12.4 thousand cost for cannon shot, his second attack. His third attack is slap slam. This is 62.6 thousand, and his max upgrade is 136.6 thousand yen, and the move is rage field onslaught. So looking at his attack, it is a thick line going into a cone and going into another thick line, and then finally ending off with a full AoE. Pretty good overall. His max damage is 140,000 with his buff that he just got, but by itself it is around 100,000 damage. Looking at his passives, he has the branded one. Every 5 takedowns, this unit spawns a demon enemy at the same HP that this unit's damage stat is and gives 100 yen on death. Anytime that demon is killed, buffs damage by 40% for 10 seconds. So this first passive is a global effect, meaning that only a single struggler can actually have this. This applies to the first struggler placed, so this includes your own other placements and also other ally that you have in your parties are strugglers as well. So this is a single thing that can only be placed on one unit. The second passive is the Struggler. While this unit is stunned, if an enemy in range is not inflicted with bleed, this unit will apply bleed to them for 20% damage for 10 seconds. This unit also gains 5% damage per injury stack, and every 10 seconds if there is a bleeding enemy in range, he performs attack 1 or attack 3. Now the injury stack is from his ability, which we'll get into after reading his final passive. His final passive is a Beast of Darkness. If this unit attacks a bleeding enemy, follow up with attack 2 for 50% of this unit's damage. Enemies hit by this follow-up are repulsed. This follow-up cannot generate injury stacks and it is a local 2-second cooldown. Alright, so I am going to use his Berserker armor. When this is toggled, this unit will begin to attack non-stop and gain full status effect and debuff immunity. As soon as the current attack is finished, follow up with another random attack. Each time this unit attacks in this state, gain 1 injury stack. So while this is building up, let's go over his damage at base. So going over Guts' damage, he has 140,000 damage at max without using his ability, and this gives him a DPS of 17.5 thousand. Now if we were to place all 3 down and max them all out, this goes up to 420,000 total damage every time they attack, giving them 52.5 thousand DPS. Now as this injury stack builds up, he gains 5% damage each time he attacks. Now one thing to note, when he is in the Berserker armor, it is at 0 SPA, but I will say that he is not attacking every 0 seconds. This just means that now his attacks are based on his attack animations themselves. So some are a lot faster than others, some are very quick while others are very slow. His first couple of attacks are very fast, while as you can see, this one right now is his full AoE attack and that one is a very slow attack. Once he reaches 20 injury stacks, he gets out of his Berserker armor and he stuns himself for 60 seconds. Now during this time he has 240,000 damage, which is his max damage by himself without any other external supports. This ties in with his second passive, which when he is stunned, he now applies bleed to enemies that are not bleeding within his range, and then every 10 seconds if there is a bleeding enemy in range, he performs attack 1 or attack 3, which can happen while he is stunned. And then also when he is attacking a bleeding enemy, he will then follow up with attack 2, and this will also repulse. So he does do a lot of attacks while he is in this state of being stunned after getting out of his Berserker armor. So going over the damage that he has 240,000 damage. His bleed during this time is 48,000 damage, and he does a follow-up of 120,000 damage. This gives him a total damage of 400 108,000 damage per attack on a single guts. This gives him 40,800 DPS. Now it can vary. This is just like a rough estimate of what his DPS is like in his stunned form. With all three placed down, this goes up to 112,800 DPS, which is very, very strong. Now his DPS can rapidly increase and decrease depending on his berserker armor attacks, which ones he is attacking on, because like I said before, his attacks SPA actually depends on his animation of the attacks himself, so he can rapidly increase and decrease his SPA. It's just hard to calculate because, you know, it's completely random on what attack he is actually going to be doing. There is no set attack rotation that he is going to be doing, so it is going to be kind of difficult to ever properly calculate how much damage he is going to be dealing during this time. Moving on to his Monarch form, on base he is at 400,000 damage, which is pretty insane every 7.2 seconds. When he does get himself that 40% from his first passive, he goes up to 560,000 damage. This gives him a base DPS of 77,900 DPS. Very, very strong. If we go ahead and start stacking up his injury stacks, I'll just go over the damage while this happens in the background, so we don't need to actually wait for this to happen. He has a maximum damage of 960,500 damage. He has a bleed during this time of 192,000 damage, and his follow-up attacks are dealing 480,000 damage. During this time, when he is stunned, he actually has an SPA of 10 seconds instead of 7.2 seconds on a base Monarch, so his total damage every 10 seconds is 1.63 million damage. This gives him a DPS of 163,200 damage. This is a rough DPS that he is dealing. It's not his exact DPS. It can be higher, it can be lower, but if he is doing everything that he says in his kit, that is basically how much damage he should theoretically be dealing, which is very good. He has really good synergies with the Smith and also the Witch. First off, we'll go ahead and look at the Witch. The Witch, of course, has this ability where she boosts damage by 50% for the duration of a stun. When he does get himself to 20 injury stacks, he will be buffing himself by 50% because of the Witch. Secondly, we do have the Smith himself, where what we can do is we can give him Dragon Slayer for that 40% increased damage and also 20% increase to dot. Outside of that, I think like there isn't really anything else that you would want to use on him. This is the one that you would most likely want to use on Guts himself, is Dragon Slayer. I'll go more into detail on this unit later on, but for now, this is how Guts is. I think he is a very, very strong unit. He is very simple to use, even with his long passive. Pretty much TLDR, place him down, max him out, just always use Berserker armor when it is available, and that is pretty much it. That is all you need to do. Alright, so finally, let's go ahead and check out the final unit, that being Griffith. He will be done a little bit differently than normal because he is a bit of an odd unit. So he costs 1,000 to place down. He is a one placement unit and he is cosmic typing. On placement, as you can see, he does no damage, he has no upgrade, and he has an ability and he has no passive. What we're going to do is we are just going to simply use his ability. What this does is it applies a brand onto any nearby unit. So now my boo has a brand of sacrifice. This means that there should be demons that will start spawning that will try to attack my boo and eventually will destroy him if they end up reaching him. But I am using boo specifically because he is full AoE, so hopefully he does not get attacked, but this shouldn't matter too much. Now Griffith does have two forms. He has his Femto form and then he also has his light form. We will be skipping over Femto because I think it is kind of unnecessary. It's basically kind of there as a filter before you get to the broken version of Griffith, which we will look at. We will not check out his passives until we actually have got him to his second form, because his first form and second form have the same passives. It's just there are more passives on his second form. And the cool thing is with this unit is that you actually only need to spend 1,000 to max upgrade him because of his second form that he does have. So as we can see, we have gone through the first eclipse and he is in his darkness form. Now, as you can see, if we were to upgrade him to his max, it does cost 103,000. So it's 104,000 to max upgrade him. But what we can do instead is we can use the sacrifice once again, and it should bring him to his second transformation after we have survived this eclipse, which I'll be back once we have done that. So here we go, we have gone and done the second eclipse, and as you can see, our Griffith is now max upgraded. So if I were to sell my boo just to get his base damage, he is at 59.6 thousand damage every 6.2 seconds. So let's go ahead and check out this unit's passives. His first passive is Aspect of Reality. This unit attacks inflict a repulse. If this unit attacks an enemy on repulse lockout, they deal 30% more damage to that enemy and inflict slow for 30% for 10 seconds. This unit cannot damage enemies spawned by Eye Sacrifice and will not be attacked by them. So as you can see, all these Eclipse demons that are from Eye Sacrifice will not destroy Griffith. Moving on to his second passive is Despicable Evil. For every ally tower branded, increases damage by 5% and range by 1%, can only brand their own towers, so no other player's towers will get branded by Griffith. His third passive is Ethereal Body. This unit ignores 30% damage reduction when attacking a slowed enemy. This amount is increased up to 50%. So these three first passives are a part of a Dark Griffith as well, and then he gets these three new passives after he turns to light. So his fourth passive is Commander. Summon the Immortal to fight for him. This is Zod, as you can see right next to him. The Immortal will do a random attack 1 to 3. So he has 1, 2 are both cones, and then his third attack I believe is a full AoE. Now it's completely random, so there is no attack order. He can do multiple full AoEs in a row, or he can do a bunch of just cones in a row. It is completely random. He also upgrades himself to max upon arriving. This is why he got maxed out, even though I've only spent 1,000 on him, which is very good. And then he gains 2% damage per thing sacrificed. Now this is any units that were sacrificed during the eclipse going from Femto to light, or when he is in his light form. If an eclipse demon is healing an enemy, there is a chance for him to increase his own damage by 2% up to 100%. So eventually you will get this all the way up to 2 times, but it will take a long time. So yeah, there is that. His fifth passive is the White Falcon. Buffs all allies in range by 40% damage. Debuffs any allies that were branded by 20% damage. So if there were any original units that were placed down that are still branded, they would actually be debuffed instead of getting buffed. But if you were to sell them and replace them and place them down again, as you can see, he is now buffing him by 40% instead of getting nerfed, which is pretty good. And then for every branded ally or enemy spawns in 1 demon from Eye Sacrifice every 30 seconds. That is why you see a bunch of Eclipse demons constantly spawning around still. Demons spawned this way give 100 yen on death. And then his last passive is Fantasia. Lower the damage reduction of all enemies in range by 20%. Brands applicable allied towers when placed and enemies when spawned. This just means that you see the brand of sacrifice on the enemies, and then when an ally is meant to be placed down, although it's not showing for some reason on the boo, but when you were to place down a unit after, he should get branded, and this would then mean that Griffith will get buffed. But I don't know why it's not working now for some reason when it was earlier. I don't know what's happened now. But let's go over his damages that he does have, because I can't really show you his Monarch form, so we're just going to need to go through the numbers that I do have on my screen on the side. So his max damage is 59.6 thousand. With his maximum passives, what I'm counting for is his 100% increased damage here. For his branded towers, this is 4 placed down, so he's getting 20% here. This is a realistic thing. If you have 4 other units placed down, he'll buff himself by 20%. He'll get 100% from here. This means he'll have 120% increased damage from here. And then lastly, he is dealing 30% more damage to that enemy, which is a very nice multiplicative buff, which is very good. That means that his total damage Traitless is 170.5 thousand damage. Now this is if he is at his maximum passives, which will take a very long time, or if you are actually like building into him, yeah, it will take a decent while to actually stack him up properly. This gives him a total DPS of 27.5 thousand as a Traitless unit. Now moving on to his damage as a Monarch form, he has 238.4 thousand damage with a 5.6 SPA. Now if he were to max out all of his passives like last time, 100% from Commander, 20% from Despicable Evil, and getting 30% more damage from Aspect of Reality, every single attack that he deals would deal 682,000 damage. This gives him a total DPS of 121.8 thousand damage. Very decent unit, but overall he does take a while to actually like build up, and like kind of you do need a build around him. You want to specifically use units that can clear these Eclipse demons, and then also use cheap units to be able to sacrifice to get up to 100% before getting to his light form, to make it a lot easier to actually get his maximum damage. He does require a lot of setup to actually perform well. But even by using the Eclipse twice on him very early on, you can just use him as a 40% buffer, which is very good. You just need to make sure that you are using units that can deal with the Eclipse demons too. This is why I also have my Skull Knight with me, because Skull Knight is meant to be immune to branded, which as you can see right here is immune to branded. For some reason my Boo is not being branded right now as well, but he should be. But that means that I can use Skull Knight at his max upgrade to help clear out Eclipse demons to help defend the branded units. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Was a bit of a skiffed showcase for Griffith, but that is pretty much it. I might do another video going over these two later on, and then I'll also have a video going over the battle pass units, but for now this is gonna be me. I appreciate it if you haven't watched this far through the video. See ya.